watch it and enjoy it and live it where they are. And the type set you're given now is your souvenir. Very expensive, but I'm happy to give you as a souvenir. And don't forget to bring the same model for tomorrow hand-joint course. Okay? I'll announce this one more time. I'm sorry for the delay. There was a little delay. Was it okay?
Sir, do you
So don't forget to take the model, which is your own copy. You can take it home. That's the souvenir for you. And the same model will be used for tomorrow hand-joint course. So we'll try some minuscule and also MAH05966 installation, things like that. More than a couple of things in the same model. So we can carry it with you until tomorrow. And for your information, tomorrow morning, 7:50 a.m., 10 to 8, correct? 10 to 8 a.m. We'll be gathering at the main entrance of our Alumni Association building where we had a party last night. The same building, but same building at the B1 floor, basement floor. There's it's on the road. It's on the main street where you will be picked up, and the bus will come. Okay, 7:50 in the morning. B1 floor, which is the main entrance of the Alumni Association building tomorrow morning. Okay? Don't be late. There's more than one bus, so we'll try to pick up those who are maybe a little late, but try to be punctual. it's a dentium implant company. It's a very big company. The location is in Suwon. If you are somehow, in worst case scenario, if you are lost, there is an address in your timetable. So, well, you can catch a taxi, which will cost you around 70,000 won, 80,000 won, but I don't want you to spend your own money. Just try to catch the bus, okay? In the morning. I feel sorry about changing the location day by day, but well, this may keep you awake, so you don't be laid back. And also we have to change the mood and atmosphere. And tomorrow where we are going, the place is Suwon, which is a southern part of Seoul. There you have a very good landscape over there. We'll have a conference at the rooftop. Very good location. And we'll have a short happy hour after the conference. Full package conference, isn't it? Alright, welcome back to the seminar. Today, 저 뒤에 문 좀 닫아줄래요? Basically, we'll have to finish this talk about rocket geometry. I'm not going to go through all different types of rocket geometry. Instead of that, I will emphasize the clinical meaning, clinical implication. So the question is, sometimes we end up with, if we level and align, one second. I'm going to give you two different questions. First one, like in here, 26-year-old girl, lady, with missing first molars in three quadrants. In three quadrants, 1, 2, and 3. Like this. You probably want to upright the molars. You probably want to upright, because the prosthodontist is never going to be able to install a dental implant between second premolar and first molar, because the molar tilting and also reduce the edentulous space. Then again, have a careful look at the molar relationship. First, it's not easy to upright the upper right first molar because of upper right second molar, because of the interference between upper and lower molars. Do you see that? Probably you want to extract the third molar on the right side. Is that correct? Then my question is, even if you pull out the third molar, do you think you can still upright the second molar? Imagine the arc of uprighting movement, and you will see, especially the distal side of the upper right molar is extremely extruded. Do you understand? And you will do the same thing for the lower right second molar. Imagine you upright the lower right second molar to the distal direction. If you are unless you are extraordinarily lucky, you won't be able to upright the upper and the lower molars without causing occlusal interference, which will lead you to an anterior open bite or something. Do you understand? Now, not easy. Not easy. So I must tell you, even if molar uprighting has been categorized or classified as adjunctive orthodontic treatment for many, many years, I would have to tell you, molar uprighting has never been easy. Never ever been easy. It's one of the most difficult type of tooth movement. Why? Because of the occlusal interference. You've seen the consequence. No movement, alveolar loss, traumatic occlusion, and it's highly probable that you may lose the molar in the middle of tooth movement, right? It's very possible, and I've experienced that once or twice in my whole professional career. It happens. Very dangerous, very, very dangerous. So you have to be careful in order not to introduce any traumatic occlusion. Okay, so this is it. So then, what is your choice for this case? You want to try something else instead of a molar uprighting. Not easy. Okay, think about it. And I'll ask you one more question. Discuss a little bit about geometry. 21. Mild crowding, moderate crowding. Well, very flat profile. Compared to the Asian norm, well, we can say his lip profile is rather retrusive compared to the Asian norm, right? So we don't want to try extraction maybe. What do you think about the amount of crowding? Moderate. Not very severe, moderate monocrowding. You want to try extraction or non-extraction? Extraction? Premolar? Non-extraction? Okay, we have more of non-extraction. Okay, let's try non-extraction. Upper and lower incisors are rather upright. We tried the Damon. Very well done. In only 7 months of time because of the mysterious magical power of Damon bracket, we were able to align the teeth in a relatively short period of time with this terrible lip profile. Why? Because I hate Damon? Why? It's a science. There's no reason why I have to hate Damon. There's no reason why I have to love Damon. I mean, there's no prejudice. It's all about science. But it happened. Okay. Based on this case, I would never ever use the Damon for my non-extraction case. Is it reasonable? Some say, all the Damon people in the United States and the world, they keep saying there is a minimum flaring when you use the Damon bracket. Do you believe in that? No? Is it wrong? Or is it right? Is it correct or wrong? Not easy to tell the difference. Was there a lot of expansion? Just a little bit in the premolar area, but not in the molar area. So this is a treatment change. I'm troubled. I'm screwed up. Another case, 12. Male. How much crowding is there? It's a lot. Relatively severe crowding. Is that correct? Severe crowding. Okay. His lip profile, barely okay. No flaring is allowed in this particular case. So, how many of you would try, one more time, extraction? A little more extraction. Non-extraction. Just a few. You're not concerned about the lip profile? So we tried Dama. In 15 months, it was half class 2 in the beginning. Now we finish it in class 1. Was there flaring? Lip profile is barely okay. My goodness, there was expanded. All right, if I show you this case and I can mesmerize you guys, have a look. This is the result of Dama. Isn't it exciting, surprising, right? We didn't have to use a headgear. We didn't have to use an RPE. Just put the braces and insert the Damon wire. It has to be Damon wire from Ormco. Otherwise, you will not get the same result, as if it's magical. What do you think? What's the difference between these two? Expansion? Okay, so sometimes you see expansion, sometimes you don't. So what's the difference? Age? Maybe. What else? My question is, was there no flaring at all in this case? No flaring at all? One more time. This is the arch change. Well, there was significant expansion. Okay, just because of the expansion, you see much less flaring than the previous case. But how come there's an expansion? Why? Because he's growing? All the growing patients are subject to expansion as long as you use the Dama? Is that it? Sometimes you see expansion, sometimes you see not flaring, sometimes there's some. So whenever you, what did you say? Okay, bone may have something to do with the eventual bone. What's the difference in the bone? Bone is flexible, like the rubber band. Because it's a grower, maybe? Not easy. So, the conclusion of my first afternoon session is that orthodontics is so mysterious and you never know what will happen, so you will give it a try. And that's it. Okay, we'll have a coffee break. That's it. That's the conclusion of our first session, right? We want to find the difference between the first and second case. Okay, true male, there's no gender issue. Aged one, young one. So there's a little bit possibility of arch expansion, but in grower, does the arch expand by itself? No. No. We need some artificial intervention or something. What is the main difference? And more importantly, how do we decide whether you will at least give it a try? Let's try. I'm expecting a little less flaring. I'm expecting a little more flaring in this case. Case A, yes, more flaring. Case B, less flaring. So I would have to be ready for molar desalization ahead of time, even from the first place. No, I'm not going to try minuscule from the first place. I'll give it a try and see whether it will expand the arch. How do you make the decision? First thing, okay, to be honest, there was some flaring, even in this case, but the flaring was kind of masked by massive mandibular growth because he was an active grower, which is why the class 2 molar relationship has been resolved. But still, just because the amount of the flaring is so minimal, it feels like very mysterious, isn't it? Very mysterious. Arch width, there was a natural increase by growth. Maybe canine leveling, how come the canine was leveled by itself? Although it was such a high canine, how come is it leveled without causing bowing or something? Just because the canine was on its way, okay? Was erupting. He was a 12. Okay, it's the right age. Well, we can assume that that was a very good environment for the canine eruption. There was a flaring, yes, but it was masked by forward mandibular growth. What else? What else do you find between these two arches? What else do you find between these two arches? The first case ended up with a terrible flaring. The second case did not produce a lot of flaring. Width? Are you seeing width?
Arch width.
What else? Again, I'll show you lower arch too.
They also second time in the first one, and in the second one.
Little more information.
The first case measure line incline.
Huh? Up? Do you describe it as an upright teeth? What about the geometry, rotation of the canine? Major difference between these two cases are, now I'm revealing the top level secret. No one on earth has ever revealed something like this, and they keep saying, I'm a Damon user. Hey, have a look at the Damon case. There's no flaring at all. I'm a strong opponent of Damon user. I can't stand the Damon guys. Have a look at my case. They're terrible. Now, no one is saying the exact difference between these two. No one. No one. Absolutely no one. Have you ever heard of the main difference? Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. What's the main difference?
Tipping of the canine.
Geometry of the canine or lateral incisor. How do they look? What do they look like? This is a mesial, relatively mesial in rotation in this case. This is a distal in rotation of the canine. Rotation takes a long time. Whether it's canine or lateral incisor, if they are rotated to the distal side, of course, as soon as you insert a continuous arch wire, the arch wire will create some bracket geometry between adjacent teeth. Obviously, it is not possible to calculate the exact amount of force in each tooth. That's experimentally possible, but practically not possible. And I won't do that because it's too complicated and it doesn't really help. But this case will create some bracket geometry, and we know that this bracket over here will give a forward movement, forward force to the lateral incisor as a side effect. The same thing happens in here too, but the side effects is produced on premolar. What's the clinical effect of vocal movement of the premolar? Arch expanding. Is that correct? So there always is a side effect. There always is a side effect. But what is important for us is the clinical standpoint. Okay? Side effect in here will be flaring. Side effect on the premolar will be arch expansion, but not much flaring. Have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of this? Bracket geometry affecting the clinical flaring? It's all about bracket geometry. Just because the rotation takes the longest period of time to take place. Okay? You can see, just have a look at the general tendency. If the lateral incisor or canine is distal in rotation, if they are in distal in rotation, there's much higher chance under the similar amount of crowding. You have a higher chance of flaring. If the case is the other way around, you have a higher chance of arch expansion. And arch expansion does not show up. Your face is not swollen on account of arch expansion, right? So arch expansion is not visible, but flaring is so visible, so noticeable. 1.5 millimeter flaring is easily noticeable. Do you understand? Do You get it? I'm revealing the top secret. Top secret. So that's the clinical implication of the bracket geometry when it comes to leveling and alignment.
Like I told you, play with this. Always there is some, you expect, between center continuous outward, you will expect pure rotation, because as far as in fact, pure rotation, but you will see there always is a vertical force, created by this continuous outward. This is canine, first premolar, or this is the lateral incisor, canine, viewed from the crucial side. Same role, same principles apply in any direction. You will see there always is a linear force up and down, backward and forward.
Unlike your expectation, this is what we call static equilibrium. This is a little bit complicated, but try to just, I don't even memorize the 6 geometry at all times. You don't have to, because it's already tabulated in this way. Whenever you feel curious about this, go to the article and confirm the bracket geometry. But the bottom line idea is that, unlike your expectation, the rotation always involves some sort of linear force to be able to maintain the static equilibrium. That's the main idea. You can also recognize the bracket geometry not having to measure the angle. Extend the wire from the bracket slot. If they are parallel, it's class 1 geometry. If the two wire, the intersection is found beyond the interbracket distance, interbracket area, then it's class 2 geometry. If intersection is on one of the brackets, it's class 3 geometry. In between, it's either class 4, class 5, or class 6 geometry. What matters in most of the leveling alignment cases is either bracket 1 and class 1 or class 2 geometry. So what matters is the clinical implication. If you find something like this, here's 44, lady. Not a very big problem, Just because the rotation of the lateral incisor is so noticeable. And what about her lip profile? I asked her, what do you think about your lip profile? Well, I think it's acceptable. I have no complaint about it. So as long as you maintain my lip profile, and I don't want to make it flat because I'm getting aged in the middle of 40. I don't want the extraction, of course not. But I want you to maintain my lip profile. And I want you to align my front teeth. It's a minor crowding, very minor crowding. So, is it partial orthodontic case or total orthodontic case? Comprehensive, what do you think? Try to think about and try to apply the principle that we learned just now to this particular case. Is it partial orthodontic case that will require only 6 anterior brackets or not? It's a tiny little amount of crowding, tiny little. Try to read the geometry. If you insert a continuous arch wire, okay, there will be rotation, yes, there will be rotation, but there also will be linear force to the front and to the front to the back, this way. And the question is, would it be clinically effective or clinically terrible? Yes, because this is distal in rotation. And lateral incisor cannot be rotated inward because the central incisor is on the way. Is that correct? Now you will see this is obviously a flaring case. So this happens to be a lingual case. So I decide to first place the braces on every tooth from 7 to 7. Second, I decide to distalize the molar segment that I'm going to discuss in the afternoon. Distalize the whole molar segment prior to alignment of the front teeth to create the space. Do you think it's too much? Only for the sake of alignment of the lateral incisor? Do you think it's too much? Have a look. Have a look. Recreate it. Let's have a look. After a while, yeah, so you will see we created enough space for the lateral incisor. Do you see that? Distal to the lateral incisor. We created a huge space for leveling and alignment. Now I am ready for leveling and alignment. So I shouldn't be worried. Also in the lower arch, there's a space between lateral incisor and canine. Even at this circumstance, even if I try my best to distalize all 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 segment to the distal side, only to create 1.5 mm, 2 mm space distal to the lateral incisor, and then I inserted the wire. Please have a look what's happening. Instead of filling the gap on the distal side of the lateral incisor, central incisor is coming forward. Do you see that? Central incisor is coming forward. Why? Because of bracket geometry. Because the lateral incisor was distal in rotated. This happens, but I'm not panicked. But I'm not panicked because I was prepared. Even if initially the central incisor is flared forward, just because we have created a space distal to the lateral incisor, we're trying to close the gap by retracting the upper central and lateral incisor, and also the same thing in the lower arch. Do you understand? Can you see the difference, by the way? Between this, now we started the level alignment, and this, have a careful look. This. Please have a careful look at the relative exposure of a labial surface and lingual surface of the central incisor in here. Keep that in mind, okay? Keep that in mind. Labial surface and lingual surface of the central incisor in here. Then try to compare this with this. What do you find? Do you find flaring of the central incisor? Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you understand this? Isn't it strange? We have created humongous space distal to the lateral incisor and we ended up with a flaring. Doesn't make sense, but that's the geometry, that's the science. It's very natural. Unless you have created sufficient space distal to the lateral incisor, you'll be in trouble. Flaring. Now, what are you going to do? We have to distalize the whole thing from now. Okay, you can do that, but your patient would be frustrated. Okay? Hey, Dr. Lee, you promised that it would be a partial orthodontic case, and you decided to put the braces on only 6 anteriors. You didn't say you were going to put the braces on molars. You didn't say you were going to use the mini screw, which is painful. And now, after 6 months of alignment, you tell me a different idea. You tell me a different option. And you demand a little more money because it was converted to a comprehensive orthodontic case. Is it true? Normally, partial orthodontic case is cheaper, right? You don't really charge the whole amount of money for 6 anterior teeth alignment. But if it becomes a comprehensive orthodontic case, you may have to charge more. Is that correct? So this is a kind of situation you may you don't want to experience, but you are obliged to experience in some cases unless you give it a thought. Now, do you understand? Do you understand? To me, this is exactly the clinical implication of the bracket geometry. Exactly the clinical implication of the bracket geometry. And it was because of the bracket geometry, it was supposed to be comprehensible orthodontic case. It took me, minuscule insertion on 4 quadrants. Not easy. But we were able to maintain the upper and central incisor position before and after treatment. Distalizing the molar. There was no flaring at all, even by 1 millimeter. There was no flaring at all. You see? So this is the inconsistent force system. This is bad example. You have a higher chance of flaring. You have a higher chance of flaring. Under similar amount of crowding, you may have a higher chance of expanding. Not much flaring. It can be either canine or lateral incisor. Oh my God, I'm revealing the top level secret to you guys today. Now you will tell the difference between flaring case and no flaring case. You will be able to see, and you will know much better than very well renowned orthodontists, including Dr. Ravinanda. No better than him, right? Because no one tells us about this. I mean, everyone and many people know about bracket geometry because this is something that I didn't really create. Dr. Burston summarized all of these things. But I was wondering about the clinical impact, clinical implication of this theory. And what I find is there always is side effect. He said that way. But from a clinical standpoint, what matters to us, what matters to me, is whether there would be significant flaring or not. Does it make sense? Is it a little complicated? Does it make sense? This kind of bracket geometry is going to be very terrible because each pair of tooth will create so-called class 6 geometry, but just because the angle, interdental angle is so small, it's not going to create a lot of force or moment. So the tooth alignment is very slow, very slow. Let's have a look at the 12-year-old boy. Well, there is serious crowding in the upper and lower arch. Then the question is whether you will try RPE followed by molar distalization and things like that. What are the clues? Fulcus class 2, Fulcus class 2. I'm telling you the secret, magic potion or something like that. He's 12. First, try to collect all the possible clinical information. 12, boy, serious crowding with Fulcus class 2, and more importantly, what matters is the geometry between central and lateral incisor, between lateral incisor and canine. Do you see serious distal rotation in any other tooth? Not really. So it's not going to cause a lot of flaring. And what about the maxillary arch? It's very tapered. So what do you think about the canine rotation? It's not serious distal in rotation, so you have a higher chance of arch expansion by itself. So you dare to try arbitrary alignment of the whole arch, right? At least you can give it a try, you can give it a shot, but based on proper analysis of a bracket geometry before you insert an arch wire. So you do it So you do it in this way. Still, you are curious about full cusp class 2. And you know he's a boy aged 12. He must be growing like crazy. You may want to take advantage of the growth. Why not, right? So you do it this way. This is very irresponsible alignment, so to speak. Irresponsible, but we are not being irresponsible because we have analyzed the bracket geometry, at least clinical standpoint. Alignment. How about the maxillary arch? It's being developed. And in the meantime, we're using, immediately after leveling and alignment, we were using class 2 bionator, activator. Also, total arch destabilization to help correction of the class 2 molar relationship. Treatment sequence is relatively simple, and we finish the case in this way. Class 1, in line, everything. He's still in his teenage because of the wrinkle on his forehead, he looks aged. He's not aged yet. What do you think about the molar relationship? Complete class 1, no OZ and overbite, non-extraction, no IP. But based on sound interpretation of the bracket geometry. Do you understand? Yes? Yes? So this is the power of understanding bracket geometry. And I must emphasize the last phrase over here. Lateral incisor, or you have to have a look at the rotation pattern of the lateral incisor or canine. If they are in distal in rotation position, you might have to think about even total arch distalization, segmental molar distalization prior to leveling and alignment. If they are in mesial in rotation position, then you can try even partial alignment of 3 to 3 or 4 to 4, not needing to distalize the whole molar segment, because the side effect will be expressed to the lateral direction. Do you understand? Whew, that's it. I gave you $1 million tip today. $1 million tip. So let's get back to the case that I showed you. All of a sudden, we move on to molar correction. 1 second ago, 1 minute ago, we were talking about incisor, but the bracket geometry is exactly applied in the exactly same way. It's never easy to reverse the situation from here, but let's have a careful look at the bracket geometry one more time. This is a treatment occlusal plane. This is a treatment occlusal plane. And first thing, your impression is the occlusal plane is not flat at all. We must flatten the occlusal plane, no matter what. Okay? And especially on the left side, over here, you will see how much extrusion there is in the first molar position, right? You need to do something to be able to level and align the molar. Now, this is going to be a very, very creative solution that has never been discussed before. Has never been discussed before. Conversion of the bracket geometry. This is conversion of the bracket geometry. Because we know, especially on the right side again, it forms class 3 geometry, which is very detrimental. If you use a continuous arch wire, in lucky case, you will have no movement of the tooth. If you are unlucky, what did I say? Traumatic occlusion, open side, alveolar bone loss, and things like that. So, we'll convert the class 3 geometry into class 2 by what? By intruding the molar. And the other side, just because there's no geometry at all, they are almost on the same line but curved. This is a very bad geometry. Speed of tooth movement, tooth alignment will be very, very slow, like I told you, okay? So we decide to try major intrusion first. Major intrusion of the first molar and second molar. Major intrusion of the second premolar and the first molar to be able to align, flatten the occlusal plane. In this way, I inserted the mini screw between 7 and 8 on the right side and 5 and 6 on the left side. This is maybe the highest level of biomechanics you can ever imagine, but this is very simple. It looks simple. The clinical procedure, it looks very simple, and happens to be an over intrusion of the second molar and the third molar on the right side. Oh my God, was it too much? Maybe it was excessive, but it converted class 3 geometry into class 2. Now you are able to insert a continuous arch wire without any worry about traumatic occlusion and everything. On the left side, there's a sufficient intermaxillary clearance, so you are able to upright the lower molar, level the lower molar with no problem. So, conversion of the geometry, it was even a lingual case. It doesn't matter, biomechanics, bracket geometry is applied in exactly the same way. Following the leveling alignment, now we are able to close the gap. Close the gap. This way. Buccal and lingual protraction. Well, there was a level arm, but as I told you in the morning, level arm is not really effective. So I just use it as if it's a placebo. Major portion of the root movement was already there by intruding the upper molar and using the continuous arch wire. Molar was very well upright. Now I'm trying to move the whole thing forward with minimal tipping. So it's not supposed to be major root movement now. Just simple space closure, okay? Simple space closure. If you have a look at the occlusal view, you may think it's a space closure of a 2 to 3 millimeter. Do you think so? Compared to the amazing cases that I showed you in the morning, this is even more amazing to me. Do you feel the same way? Because if you look at it this way, it looks like a space closure of 2 to 3 millimeter gap. No, it's a tremendous amount of root movement into the maxillary sinus. Have a look at the relative position. Into the maxillary sinus. Have you ever tried any movement like this? It's not easy, never easy. Especially in the upper arch, the root movement, the upper molar is even more difficult. In the morning, some asked me some questions about the possible rotation of the mandibular molar during root movement. Yes, that happens, but just because the mandibular molar has 2 roots on the medial side and the distal side, the tendency of rotation is minimal. But in the maxillary molar has a higher chance of rotation because of the presence of the very big parietal root. As you know, right? Not easy. So, mini screw assisted root spring is not really applied and indicated for upper molar control. Very sadly. It's better to try something like this when it comes to intrusive root movement of the molar. Have a look at it. Superimposition. This is the amount of root movement we gained in this case. Major intrusion followed by root movement. Intrusion and root movement. Do you see that? Not easy. Okay, if you don't get it, even if I don't get it, Dr. Lee insists that this is a very difficult type of tooth movement. I don't understand. Just memorize. If you want to do that, just memorize, keep memorizing, keep reminding you of the fact. This is a kind of the most difficult, challenging type of tooth movement you can ever imagine in the world. Okay? Just keep that in mind. And this is really true. And there's no change in the profile. Alright, so I told you about some appliances concepts, and the main issue was just because we are in the mini residency for advanced orthodontics, not basic orthodontics. We're in mini residency for advanced orthodontics. In advanced orthodontic course, we're supposed to move the tooth in a different way. As long as you are able to move the roots, your scope of orthodontic treatment is all of a sudden very enlarged. Do you agree? When the next orthodontist, the neighbor orthodontist is simply uprighting the tooth. Even the uprighting molar is not easy. And you know why your neighbor orthodontist is so struggling with a molar uprighting, right? Isn't that exciting? Isn't that exciting? Doesn't it excite you? No? So I introduced the Mars, helical spring, and upper molar intrusion. And you are the orthodontist. All the other orthodontists or non-orthodontists, they end up with tipping. Oh my God, you're so prominent orthodontist from now on who are able to move the root. And I'm going to keep talking about this tomorrow morning. That is the same principle applied to incisor root movement. As soon as you get used to this, you'll be able to govern the whole universe. This is the way how I see the galaxy, the universe. Orthodontics has to be center of the universe, and then the other specialty areas are turning around you. So you're the ones who are shining in the universe, alright? Do you think so? Do you still think orthodontics is only a part of dentistry? No, you saw it. You know, now you know how orthodontics can be powerful in terms of restructuring the whole dentition, right? Without orthodontics, you cannot possibly restructure the whole teeth, and you can eliminate the dental implant, and this way you can make the bone, you can restructure the occlusion, you can make the tooth, right? You can do everything better than the other specialists. So that was it for root movement. Hopefully you enjoyed the whole thing. Have any question? Yeah? No? No? You don't have any question? Normally there used to be a lot of questions. Okay, let's not waste the time. I'm going to spend the 20-30 minutes before we have a coffee break, and then we'll do the hand joint. I know it's a terrible time. Immediately after lunch break, you feel sleepy, and lecturer seems to be bored. So I showed you this terrible case, which ended up with the flaring, terrible. If this happened, what are you going to do? You want to try premolar extraction? After 7 months aligning with the data? Yes or no? Yes? Non-extraction? Some of you, non-extraction. So what are you going to do without extraction? Good. With what? German, some slider or something like that? European device? Foresight or something? Additional components? Vocal shelf, I use the interradicular between 5 and 6, single minuscule, mid quadrant, and simple power chain for the next 6 months at a time. Now 9 months, and then I finish it. So, this one. Distalization is mainly for non-extraction treatment in borderline cases. Do you agree? Yes? Let's have a careful look at the conventional approach. Pendulum, distal jet, followed by Nance holding arch, followed by TP bar. Complicated, right? And for some reason, this kind of tooth movement is subject to relapse. It looks like relapse. What is missing? What is missing? It was tipping of the molar. We needed more radical translation or root movement. And there was a flare because of the class 2 elastics or something. And maybe because of that, 7 years later, relapsed. In the very beginning, we extracted a second molar. Now we have a second chance. But we don't have any second molar extraction case, opportunity. Like this. Good. What do you want to do? Still interradicular minuscule. For large distalization. Not necessarily extra-alveolar something. Not necessarily vocal shelf something. 10 months. What about the type of tooth movement? Was it distal translation or even root movement? No flaring at all. Retention for the next 2 years, 7 months is almost okay. Once again, the same principle is applied for molar distalization. When it comes to molar distalization, when do you need molar distalization? First, for relief of the crowding. Second, to correct class 2 or class 3. Correct? Moderate class 2, moderate class 3. You want to distalize the molar. What is the type of tooth movement? Distal bodily movement. Is that correct? Bodily movement. You don't like it? More specifically, which one out of these 3 sets would you choose for molar distalization? First, intrusive translation. Second, horizontal translation. Third, extrusive translation. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Number 1, number 2, no one, number 3. So you are very well brainwashed by now. Just because you've gone through the whole lecture in the morning, I brainwash you guys. Absolutely intrusive, right? Then, have you ever heard of any device that will give you intrusive translation of the molar? Huh? Like what? Huh? MCC? What's that? MCCP? Palatal something plate. Is that correct? Where do you place the bracket? Opposite. So is it MCCP is applied only for the lingual case? Your main bracket is on the vocal side. MCC, I don't know what it means. MCCP is applied on the palatal side. I have a question. How do you overcome and cross over the force? Your attachment must be on the lingual side for the distalization. And your main bracket, so you have a vocal lingual appliance, right? First, complicated. Second, your lingual force, your buccal wire cannot resist rotation of the single premolar. If the point of force application is on the lingual side, right? There is a rotation of a particular tooth that is subject to the distalizing force. Third, if it's a class 3, what are you going to do? You cannot possibly use the MCCP, whatever it is, in the mandible. And I asked the same question to a German guy who uses a lot of the mid-palatal plate and something. Hey, Dr. So-and-so, I have a question. I know it's powerful, so brilliant, but what do you do if you need a molar distalization in mandible? I know even if your class 3 is very rare in Germany, and also you probably have some moderate, mild crowding case in the lower artery where you want to distalize the lower molar. What's your solution? You cannot possibly use the plate in the mandible. That's not possible. And his answer was use the molar distalizer in the upper arch, use the mid-palatal plate, and then use the class 3 elastics. Oh my God, that's a compliance. Compliance. That is the problem. So I would have to think about a rather versatile, a rather universal clinical approach that can be applied to both maxilla and the mandible. Because it's not only maxilla that we need the distalization, right? Do you agree? Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Thirdly, we basically need intrusive transfer. There is a lot of molar distalizer. This was published by a German group. A lot of molar distalizer. They look different, but to me they look same. They look same. How come they are same? They look so different. From a biomechanical standpoint, they are same. Why? Because their target segment is a single molar. They are aimed to move a single molar at most 2 molars at a time. Okay, single molar distalization. I'm going to have to explain this in a biomechanical standpoint. You try a single molar distalization using a 200-gram force. You will end up with something like this. Have a careful look at the pattern of a molar distalization in the first case scenario. Crown is sticking to the distal side. Root apex is moving to the medial side. We call it rotation. It's very natural that we have this kind of rotation. Do you like it? No. But if the same identical force is applied to 4, 5, 6, 7 unit, as you see, the amount of a cusp crown is much reduced. 1/10 of it, okay? The amount of movement is much less, but there was a simultaneous distal movement of both crown and the root apex. So it's no more of rotation. Which one do you think is better in terms of a molar distalization? Very well. So it's like I am the molar. I want to move to this side. Although it's slow. Very good. Eventually, you get sufficient molar distalization. Crown and the root. But you are very much fooled by the way it looks, because what you see is the crown. If your movement is like this, even if your root apex is on the other side, you are fascinated by the way it looks. Oh my God, there was a tremendous amount of molar distalization. 3 millimeter, 4 millimeter in 2 months of time. Isn't it amazing? That's your attitude. Do you agree? The company people will come out with a beautiful picture where you tip the molar by 3 millimeter in 6 weeks of time, saying that it's such an amazing device. And it's still classified as tipping to me. Okay? So you, just because you cannot possibly look through the alveolar bone, many times you are fooled. Many times you are fooled. And I'm going to skip over this part. The main idea is that single molar is vertically long, anteroposteriorly short. Now this is a single molar. This is the greatest advantage of conference in person. I move around, I can show you guys the way it moves, this and that way. Now this is the molar, single molar. This is the crown, this is the root. Now, vertically long segment, when it's subject to a single force, is very prone to rotation. Do you see that? Very prone to rotation. You have to be very careful. See? This tremendous difference between crown movement and root movement. You have to be very careful about localizing your single force. And it's not easy. When it comes to molar distalization, now we are moving 4, 5, 6, 7, sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it's anteroposterior long segment. Regardless of the point of application, it doesn't rotate as much. You see that? Doesn't rotate as much. So that's the greatest advantage of the segmental distalization in terms of biomechanics. You understand? Anteroposteriorly long, vertically short. It can never become short, but if you extend the segment anteroposteriorly this way, this segment is less sensitive to the position of the linear force. So you can still distalize the molar without tremendous rotation of the segment. This is why I insist root distalization, segmental distalization, or even total arch distalization in many of the mild crowding cases, moderate class 2, class 3 cases. Okay? Now we are talking about anteroposterior correction, but tomorrow we'll be able to vertical correction, where you need total arch intrusion. Hey, Dr. Lee, when do we need total arch intrusion? You need a total arch intrusion in so many cases, because otherwise you get into trouble again. I'll show you the clinical example tomorrow. But today, we're simply talking about the molar distalization, and whatever it is, whatever the case may be, many times we need root distalization for the sake of a biomechanical easiness. Alright, so when it comes to molar distalization, you don't need to bother to extend the lever arm as much. You just try total arch distalization using the interreticular mini screw and engage a power chain from the mini screw to any button or hook located on canine or first premolar to be able to distalize the whole segment. This is the easiest way. First thing, technically simple. Second thing, biomechanically superior to, I don't know, the MCC what, something like that, okay? Limitation maybe, there is a limited amount of molar distalization. Unless you use a mid-paltal plate, 2 to 3 millimeter molar distalization would cause a molar interference between the mini screw and the root. So you have a higher chance of a transplantation. Okay? But then again, transplantation is always ready. and as long as you get used to it, you have to get used to it, because like I told you yesterday, mini screw, whatever it is, whether it's segmented, stabilized, or single mini screw, whatever it is, they are subject to failure in 20% of cases. So you need to be ready for replantation and transplantation, which is one of the most important purpose of this particular course. Okay? Anyway, you have class 2, generalized class 2, and she doesn't want surgery, looks like. Condylar resorption. And we noticed to be able to gain class 1 molar relationship, instead of using class 2 intermaxillary elastics, we were going to use lingual brace together with a single mini screw between 6 and 7. And we don't try sequential distalization, we try total arch distalization, because there was a minimal crowding. And in the meantime, the mini screw runs up against the first molar root. So then we transplant the mini screw from the lingual side to the labial side, upper side, for example. This is an example. This kind of transplantation is always possible.
When you say transplant, are you talking about using the same screw on the other side, or are you using a new screw? Placing a new screw, not transplanting the screw. Formally,
Apparently, formally, use a different one. Fourth step, total arch movement. Okay, finished in 2 years and 3 months. Transition from class 2 to class 1. Reduction of the overjet without extraction. Reduction of the overjet without extraction. Total arch distalization. Stable results for the next 3 years. Well, acceptable smile. Now, what is the advantage of this approach? Clinical advantage of this approach. You, especially the orthodontists from European countries, you have a lot of class 2 division 2, is that correct? Class 2 division 2. Oh my God, you really have to listen to the lecture tomorrow morning. You cannot miss it. Oh my God. We don't have a lot of class 2 division 2 in Korea. We do, instead we have a lot of bialveolar protrusion. For alveolar protrusion, control of the incisor axis is a very important issue, but it's even more important for class 2 division 2. Class 2 division 2 to me is a very, very difficult type of tooth movement. I mean, the type of case. So for example, upper incisor axis was 79.2 to start with, like this. Is this a very typical class 2, similar to European class 2 division 2? Is that correct? Similar, right? Similar. Deep bite. Is that correct? Deep bite. Class 2 molar, of course. Of course, deep curve of speed. Correct? And she's not growing. She's almost an adult. How old is she? 18. Let's try to have a little bit careful look at the occlusion. Now, no matter what, we want to finish this case at desirable inter-incisal relationship, desirable upper incisor axis. Okay, and there was a little crowd. You want to try non-extraction. You want to try molar distalization a little bit, but if the molar distalization is combined with this little bit of incisor flaring. First, it affects the lip profile, and second, you have to flare the lower incisor as well. What about the extraction? You want to try extraction? You don't have to distalize the molar, but then again, just because of lingual incline, the upper incisor at the very beginning, it's extremely difficult to control upper incisor axis when it comes to extraction, right? So, whether it's extraction or non-extraction, basically you have to try a major root movement of what? Of upper incisor. Instead of flaring. Rather than flaring, you have to try major root movement of the upper incisor, whether it's extraction or non-extraction. So, what are the tasks? What are the tasks? Molar distalization. And using the space created by molar distalization, you might have to try intrusive root movement of the upper incisor. Is that correct? Deep bite, class 2, very upright upper incisor, class curve of speed in the lower arch. So basically you cannot possibly flatten the curve of speed because upper incisor is on the way. You cannot possibly move the incisor to any direction because lower incisor is in the way. Oh my God, you cannot, you are stuck. Your upper incisor and lower incisor, they are stuck up against each other. So this is exactly why I don't like to treat class 2 division 2. Send it to the next orthodontist. Hand it over to the next orthodontist. How? I'm going to talk about this tomorrow morning more in detail, including the bracket dimension, slab dimension, wire configuration, and things like that. I'm going to talk about this again tomorrow morning, so stay tuned. But what did I do? First, I used, maybe because I'm a little worried about the terrible class 2 molar relationship, I used 2 mini screws, one between 5 and 6, another one between 6 and 7. Why? Because I was thinking that I might have to distalize the whole arch, but if you simply have a look at this situation over here, you might be worried about even more lingual tipping of the upper incisor, don't you think? Right? Even more lingual tipping of the upper incisor. This is the force factor. Main purpose is to distalize the molar segment. What happened to the incisor? Did I change the wire very often? I don't think so. Molar relationship is being improved just little by little. Now it's close to class 1. What about the upper incisor axis? Let's get back to initial. Lingual version, slightly, gradually improved. With what? With what? I didn't use an intrusive arch. I didn't use an additional arch or anything. What happened? What happened? I used a torqued arch wire. So there's an additional torque on upper incisor. Initial, final. Initial, final. Okay? What about the superimposition? Initial, is moving backward. First, there was a torquing moment on bracket on 4 incisor. Second, because the power chain engaged between mini screw and the arch wire, the front tooth cannot come forward. Do you understand? The front tooth cannot come forward. They are not free. And there was a constant moment, like I told you, combination of a weak force and constant moment will give rise to root movement. I'm going to talk about this tomorrow morning again. Right? Have a careful look. Now, this is magical transition, magical before and after. Okay? This is absolutely the greatest advantage of using the mini screw. Not about anchorage reinforcement. No. It's all about simplicity of the treatment protocol, even for a challenging case. Just because it was inclusively moved and there was a movement, now lower the flattening of the lower side comes is also possible. It was stuck. You cannot do anything. You cannot do anything. Flattening of the occlusal plane via intrusive translation of the molars, and there was also significant root movement and rotation of the upper incisor. Okay? And now have a look at the retromolar area in the maxilla over here. Compare this to this mess over here. Now you recognize the amount of molar distalization. The same thing for the other side. Compare the mess here to the mess here. You recognize the amount of molar distalization, yes? Okay. So this is the difference, and this will make you realize the pattern and amount of molar distalization. And what did I use? I didn't use a distal jet. I didn't use a pendulum. I didn't have to use a mass holding arch. I didn't have to use a TP bar, transport arch. I didn't have to use a MC whatever. I didn't have to use any additional brace on the palate. And this is a 3-dimensional superposition showing the intrusive distalization of the molar. Follow up 2 years. Okay. So, total large movement is indicated for class 2 and also class 3. I'll show you the interesting, exciting class 3 cases. I keep telling this, there will be something more exciting tomorrow, there will be something more exciting tomorrow to keep you in this classroom so you don't run away, but I'm being serious. I'm going to talk about a little more exciting cases day by day. Hopefully you will enjoy it tomorrow. Okay? Cross your finger.
Did you use these skills since the first wire?
Immediately after leveling and alignment, because you have to use the mini screw with working wire. Working wire normally use a stiff after alignment. And my working wire was rectangular stainless steel, 1622. But there's a little bit secret. As I told you, there's a torque on the wire on 4 incisor segment. I'm gonna introduce you to the arch wire tomorrow. So the technical advantage of this approach is that you can try simultaneously. As you know, there's tens of millions and zillions of molar distalizer available in the orthodontic market outside. But what matters is still we need to control the upper incisor. Alright? Molar distalization is one thing and incisor control is another. And you can do both at the same time. In this way. There there may be some limitations, but I'm going to have to finalize the first afternoon session like this. I named this all for one approach and one for all approach. One for all approach is a total arch technique, and I have to tell you because based on the biomechanical understanding, I can tell you this is relatively fail-safe. Okay? Relatively fail-safe. Even if you try commit a little mistake in terms of leveling and alignment and things like that, in terms of establishment of a force, say the line of a force, placement of force vector, it may be it's tolerated, so you don't end up with a very serious trouble or side effect after all. Total arch, because total arch is an interposterior long segment. So it's forgiving, relatively forgiving. So you better try to use a reliable appliance setting rather than complicated assembly of all these different parts. What do you think? Decision is up to you. I'm using the same technique, and hopefully you will understand about underlying biomechanics. Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening. We'll have a 20 minutes break, and we'll try insertion at the mini screw in the interradicular area. Thank you very much.